of this event, thank you for bringing me back here this year to share thoughts with you. And I have been given so many responsibilities, some that tended to distract me from my core presentation. There were questions that were posed that I should answer them, and I'm going to answer those questions before I go to my presentation. The discussions on jobs for Akwa indigenes, a member of the House of Assembly from the member State Constituency on the Onofiok brought a bill seeking to get certain percentage of for the job opportunities here in the state for the indigenes. And I think that bill passed. But we know that as laudable as that should be and as laudable as that is, you know that there are challenges. You don't need, any economy in the world is not totally developed by the indigenes. It's a combination of those who are resident there, those who are indigenous of that place, that join hands together to develop any economy. America is not developed really by two cents, the Native Americans. America is developed by immigrants, and most of them are Jewish people. And the greatest, I want to, if I'm right, I believe that those with money in America are Jewish people and are immigrants. And that happens to every other economy. And so it's not wrong if we open our states for people to come in and play in our economy. But the question is, even in North America, they've gotten some legislation, some kind of arrangement to protect the rights and the privileges of the people who are from there to take the benefit of what they have done in the economy. And so, strategically going forward, we will continue to strategically open up our state for investment, but we will ensure that our people who are purely agrarian, purely rural, get the benefit of that economy, because that's what has happened to us today as a state. We have made investment, infrastructure investment in the state. We have made investment in the economy, the big ticket things. And so the economy of the state will continue to grow exponentially. Unfortunately, the people have been left behind. And so, what do we do in the future is to close this gap. And the only way to close this gap is to build the capacity, human capital development, build the capacity of our own people so that our people can grow and at least try to play in the economy that will continue to grow. We have to match economic growth with its benefit, attendant benefits to the people. And in doing that, we should be able to make some arrangement. Whichever way, I know that an engagement like this will throw up ideas, throw up insights to be able to help us on how we can do that and protect our own people. So that legislation was done. The other one is the Akwa Development Fund. We passed it and then sent it to the Excellency Governor. And I believe that the governor was waiting for the advice of the Attorney General because there are processes of lawmaking. And then after you have sent the bill as passed by the House to the Executive Governor for his assent, he will look for the opinion of the Chief Law Officer, that's the Attorney General of the state, which is of the Federation in the nation. And so the Governor or the President will act on the advice of the Attorney General. So I believe that the Governor is awaiting the advice of the Attorney General. If that has been given, I don't know, and I don't think I have left there. And I won't speak for the House of Assembly right now because I don't have the authority, I don't have the power. So I'm speaking as to the time which I have the privilege of superintending over there. And so a few other things that has been said. I want to thank Ms. Anyanwu for what she said. She said that during Christmas, when my children were here on Christmas break, I had to enroll them in her what they call summer school. And then she had to send me a text, your son is just like you. How did you do it? I said, I want to share this lesson without sounding immodest. I know that whatsoever we are going to do, first, let me start with my father. My father dropped me in school in 1989. That was when I got enrolled in secondary school. Lutheran High School over here. And said, son, a middle-aged civil servant, a lawyer, and my mother a teacher. Son, I don't have much to give to you, but I give you this name. Protect this name with everything that you have. The things you know I will do do it with this name. The things you know I won't do, don't do it. And so 1992, on his dying day, he held my hand and said, son, I'm going, I don't have much to give to you. I give you this name. Do what is good with this name. And that has ring in my mind, even in my conduct and behavior in public service. And my mother is still alive, and for those who were taught by my mother, they know who she is. I'm still afraid of her disciplinary attitude even till today. And so everything I do in the public service, I'm asking, oh, how's my mother going to feel about this? And so if I am conscious of that, I should be able to transfer that generational relevance. I should be able to transfer that to my children. I hold a session with my children every Sunday evening, and I try to prepare their mind into what they are going to face in the week. And my son came out from school 2 days ago and met me, and I asked him to go and do something, and okay, I gave him a concession. He said he was not going to boarding house again. I said, okay, I accepted. Come and pray for him, but we are going to find, we are going to be stricter to you than your boarding master. And so 2 days ago, I asked him to go and do something, and then he went and he called him and said, son, let me tell you something. You cannot leverage on what I have become. You have to fashion a path for yourself. The only thing and the best thing I can give to you is education. As long as God gives me life and keeps your mother alive and gives us the way we are, we'll give you the best of education. I keep telling them, I won't need well for them. I don't even have wealth. I tell them I share the wealth. I'm not going to leave it for you. You have to strive on your own path. And so we will finish from this public service the pursuit of our career and we'll return home. It will be a starting point, God forbid, for you to go home and meet children who are there. And so why don't you do all the best that you can to be able to impact life in those children and knowledge and the fear of God and how they should navigate. One of us talked about, Usoro talked about that if you want to be engineer, I think you should be the best engineer in your field. My boy is going to be 5 by April, my last child, and my second, my fourth child and the last one, and the second boy came to me. He showed me a butterfly he painted. That was on Tuesday, a butterfly he painted in school. And then said that I did this, I'm the best artist in the whole world. And then I almost rebuked him and said, why did you start boasting? I said, something great inside me. I said, no, yes, son, you are the best artist in the whole world. Because the Holy Spirit just told me that is what he is professing for himself. And he's very vocal more than his elder brother, the other ones. He said, I'm the best artist in the whole world. And I agree with him because with that foresight, he's going to pursue life with that foresight to become the best artist in the whole world. So that leads me to talk about family, the place of family. I'm saying this to talk about the place of family in community stakeholders for social good, because the good starts from the family. What you have been given, your parents have given you, what has caused those businesses to fail is maybe probably lack of proper upbringing. And what has caused the business to succeed is probably good tutelage. And then they have followed up with the family lessons. I think I've been able to address those issues that have been asked to tackle while while the presentation was going on. They permit me to agree with Justice Ukana on the need to create an enabling environment. Listen, it is totally an abnormality for government to do business. It's not the place of government to build industry. And hear me clearly. The responsibility of government is to create an enabling environment for investors to come in and thrive. The only thing government can do for purposes of maybe control or for purposes of employment is for government to buy equity in those firms when they come. And so that government can use that to determine maybe some level of employment as part of the if they can use that to be able to deal with some social malaise. And so government business is to create an enabling environment. And please listen to me. You see, we politicians create narratives, and then you run along with these narratives without building this narrative to see what is at the end of that narrative. For God's sake, you want you to hear me clearly. When once you have power and you utilize that power appropriately, investors will come. Investors don't need to follow an individual. Hear me clearly. Anybody, you have power, and then you utilize that power effectively in the sense that to create infrastructure. What brings investment? Sound legislation, solid infrastructure, and security. When once you have those three in place, and you are a leader and you are able to keep those three in place, people will come from far and wide, whether UK. They don't need to know you in person. They don't need to have their contact. They will come when they see an enabling environment for you to come and invest. And so that's what I'm telling you, that please, all what we need to do is to rise up and make sure that we create an enabling environment, support the leadership to create an enabling environment. Let's support, as we are in the state, there's a leader in the state government, let's support him, and like with the outcome of this summit, we can pass it through government bureaucracy to get to the governor as part of solution. Let's support him to create an enabling environment for business to thrive in the state. Now, I have a few points to make, and I'm just going to speak to the paper. I know that the day has already been far spent. Now, the first point that I want to buttress the importance of this gathering, and I have this to say. We need critical thinking now more than ever. We must diligently reset our world, which have been plagued by different maladies, one of which is the COVID-19 pandemic. And I go to add insecurity globally, because we had cases of terrorism, we had cases of banditry, not only peculiar to us. Today, we used to feel that Abu Dhabi was a heaven, until we begin to have Yemenis trying to use drones and then to attack Abu Dhabi. And so that's a global challenge. And this is more applicable in our country, which was already challenged in all fronts. I say this with all sense of responsibility. Our healthcare was already challenged, our educational system was already challenged with incessant strike, and then our economy was already challenged 2-time almost successive recession. We went into recession in 2016, and then we had a recession again in 2018. And while we were trying to grapple and rise out of recession, came COVID-19. That there's a double blow on our economy. And so if there's anything we need now to be able to solve the challenges and reset the economy of this state, it is an economy of this country, it is critical thinking. So I said recession, the lack of adequate infrastructure, insecurity, etc., before the devastating blow of COVID-19. It is against this background that this gathering presently, and its pre-event, that is pre-summit, are quite commendable. And I want to say that you are young, and then it is a young mind that is going to come up with the solutions that we need to solve the challenges of today. And please give me those books. I will make just, in 10 minutes, I will make just a few presentations, and I round up. I want to buttress the point while we are here. Now, I have this book from His Excellency Architect Onofiok. It says, "It is well with my soul." And let me read what Onofiok said in page, when he was giving his plans for the state, his manifesto. And this is what he has to say about youth and women development. I'm very particular about youth development, and it has to do with mentality. He said the current architecture as a then of our state, and I think it is still now, the current architecture of our state is that of a young state with an old mentality. I'm putting on water. He said the old mentality militates against a proper appropriation of our human resources. The old insist on holding sway till death, while the youth are expected to wait patiently until it is their turn. Even to take that turn, there is little effort to deliberately groom them. In the same vein, our women are largely ornamental, at best, or beasts of burden, at worst. Moreover, old attitudes and customs have crystallized the, and I quote, feminization of poverty in our society. Obawata in his book, page 36. Now, He saw today, and let me use the opportunity to appreciate His Excellency and the Governor Victor Otta, without prejudice to those who had the opportunity of superintending over this state before his coming. I appreciate His Excellency and the Governor Victor Otta for laying a solid foundation for the economic renaissance of this state. He drew the blueprint which successive administration has come to leverage on. And I want to appreciate other governors. I appreciate Governor Onofiok for continuing with the economic agenda of Governor Victor Otta. And I appreciate Governor Emmanuel for sustaining the legacies of Governor Victor Otta and the legacies of Governor Onofiok. And that is why the next governor of this state must be able to sustain the legacies of Governor Emmanuel, because he sustained the legacies of those who were there before him. Let me give you an example. I like speaking with empirical facts. Let me give you a few examples why and where I base this argument. Number one, Urban Victor Otta means that we are a pedestrian state. We are a state at the periphery. We are not a pedestrian state. And so we are probably at the Atlantic Ocean. And so there was need for him to make this place a destination. That people were not a pedestrian state where people in the course of passing by can plant in and then sleep and then see what we have to do. He knew that for you to go to Akwa Ibom State, you must go there intentionally. And there are two sets of people that go to a place intentionally to bring development. They are investors and tourists. And so he set an agenda to try to create an enabling environment for these two sets of people to come and in the long while release the potential for the development of the state. And so he knew that there are three gateways to a place, and then he sought to start the development of those three gateways. The land. So he brought the Xerox, the mother cat, the detail of this world to try to give us the land infrastructure, the roads that we have. And then he knew that most of those people would come from far, and so he conceptualized the airport. And then he knew that we would become an industrial hub, and so we would need to do import and export, and that can only thrive with a deep seaport. So he conceptualized the deep seaport. He knew that these economic drivers will need human capital to fit with them, and so he came up with some ideas like the State University of Technology that was later completed to a conventional university, so that we can change the capital, human capital to fit in there. And then he knew that we are purely rural and agrarian people, and so he came up with some intervention programs so that our people can play in that economy. Interventional direct labor jobs and integrated farmer scheme, and that many people were beneficiaries of that program. And so Onofiok started the free and compulsory education to train our people from that elementary stage. Then entered Senator Onofiok, continue with that economic agenda, built the airport in aviation development, landed the first plane, and then we started commercial activities. That saved us the stress of going to Calabar or Port Harcourt to catch the flight. And then he continued with the idea of the seaport development. And then continue with the idea of infrastructure development, that is road, massive road construction. He went a step further to bring the Julius Berger of this world, the Setraco of this world, the Stenco of this world, the CCCC of this world. And the idea of that administration was to link every local government headquarters by road. And then he continued with the free and compulsory education. And then invested massively again in healthcare. And then we had the specialty hospital and then the rest of health facilities that we've seen. And then entered Emmanuel, still continuing with that agenda. He knew that the MRO in the airport cannot be functional if that airport does not have an airline that makes it a hub. And so in extending the frontiers of that development, His Excellency Governor Emmanuel came with Ibom Air. You cannot take your car to a mechanic if you have not seen that mechanic repair a car in his workshop and become functional. And so there's no airline that would have thought of bringing any of their fleet to Akwa Ibom for air checks or sea checks if they have not seen a particular airline that uses the airport that hosts the MRO, service their airplane with that MRO. And so the government came with Ibom Air. And then the government extended the frontiers of our integrated farmer scheme, the agricultural revolution, the kind of crops we thought could not grow here, he has massively invested for those crops to grow. And then he, through his hand, by the grace of God, continued as seaport development. And by his relationship with the federal government, God, through his hand, has caused President Muhammadu Buhari and the Federal Executive Council, which we totally appreciate. We commend the President for that effort to give us approval for the full business case of the Ibom Seaport. And so the question going further is, We must sustain on those legacies. Are we going to wait for the deep sea port to come before we begin to train people? And so can we begin to look at the manpower need of the deep sea port and begin to look at where can we channel the energies of our young people to? Onofiok started that in sending some of our young people to Canada. Some of them did not return. But the future will be that you have to have a bond. Government will have a bond with you that as we're sending you out to train, whether as medical doctor or people to come and see us in the airport, you have a bond with you to come back to the state and work for a period of about 5 years before you can go on their own. So having looked at the manpower need of the deep sea port, the goal of the future will be how can we begin to turn to the big maritime belt, the Norway, the Sweden, the Singapore of this world to try to see how they can train and build the manpower need of our own people so that we don't discriminate against others. We will allow the Mustafa Ahmed and then Pastor Ifani to continue to play big in our own economy. But we want to play big with them at the managerial position, not to play big as tea savers or drivers or people to sweep the house. And it's only human capacity development, human capital development that can do this. And so I'm trying to show you what Ogoda's thoughts were as at that time. And so what you are doing as young people is to gather the base of brains to be able to achieve what we have done and where we are going to. And that is why this summit is very key. I will just conclude with the topic you asked me to. But let me read this book, a page for you. By David Amos. David Amos is a professor of business administration in Harvard Business School. In 2012, a personal copy he made when we went for a program of the Nigerian School of Management. He gave me this book personally and said, you don't know, you can need this book tomorrow. It's titled A Concise Guide to Macroeconomics with Managers, Executives, and Students. What managers, executives, and students need to know. And in page 24, hear him clearly. In page 24, he said the British economist John Maynard Keynes claimed to have the answer. And I quote, if our poverty were due to earthquake or famine or war, if we lack material things and the resources to produce them, he wrote in 1933, we would not expect to find a means to prosperity except in hard work, abstinence, and invention. In fact, our predicament is notoriously of another kind. It comes from some failure in the immaterial devices of the mind. Nothing is required, and nothing will avail except a little clear thinking. A little clear thinking, which is what we are doing. Critical thinking to come up with resolutions that can help solve the problem for us in this country. And my last quote here is about the people in this room, who you are. You are what I term the brain trust, and I got it from this book. The Rebel Talent is in How to Break the Rules in Work and Life by Francisca Juno. And I want to quote the author. It's a little bit lengthy, 1 page. But I want to show you the power you have as a people. We are talking about, you asked me to talk about the courage of the people in democracy. And I want to show you the power you have. The power you have, the very first power you have is the intellect you possess. And then when you are able to extract that, put that on top of the table, an aggregate of all that you know will help solve the challenges that we are facing. Just like Morgan has said before, we will not be able to solve all the problems in one day, but gradually, one step at a time, we'll arrive there. And please, I would, most of this book, I would recommend it for you to read, and then maybe where I have gotten the quotation from, I can ask them to reproduce it for your understanding. Now, Pizza president and co-founder Ed Catmull has a large, bright workspace. But again, he said, I have a large, bright workspace on the second floor of the Steve Jobs building. Windows overlook green lawns and toy versions of characters from my favorite Pixar movies fill the shelves of his office. When we met, Catmull sat on a couch in his office across from me, dressed in a colorful short-sleeved shirt and jeans. He told me that despite all the signs of comfort and whimsy I saw around me, Pizza had experienced real trouble. That is where I wanted to begin to follow. In 2013, 7 years after being acquired by Disney, the studio had gone through some tough times. Film budgets were rising, the DVD market was shrinking, and production cost was soaring. Pixar management was also increasingly feeling that a key aspect of the company culture, that employees' willingness to speak their minds freely, was not what it used to be. And so you could see what guarding the mind of the people can do. I want to say something here, and I am not counting myself out. The political class of this state has reduced our young people to timidity. And it is not occurring well for us. And so all what we need is that we need to have strong mind, sound mind, who can sit on the table of this country, no matter where they find themselves. They can articulate and advocate for the interest of the state without any fear of intimidation or harassment. Who can hold themselves up high anywhere? How can they do this if we don't train them to speak boldly and audaciously? And then today, there are certain persons who judge up on time. When some people have the courage to speak up, they say, no, he's erratic. There are people who judge Obama to say, no, he was fighting too much with Obasanjo. If Obama, and some people said he was erratic. We love that positive, how to be erratic positively. Because being erratic, according to people who judge Obama that they brought all the resources that we are enjoying today. So we need courageous leaders who know when to fight and when to retreat for the interest of their people, not for their personal interest. And then the young men and the young women of our state must come together and begin to speak. The most important point is speak intelligently, speak respectfully, and speak honestly. Not for you to begin to go and insult. And so a hallmark, and I quote, a hallmark, this is Catmull himself. A hallmark of a healthy creative culture is that its people feel free to share ideas, opinions, and criticisms. Catmull said. He went on to know that when a creative group draws on unvarnished perspective of all its members and the collective knowledge, decision-making stands to benefit. Candor is key to effective collaboration, says Catmull. Lack of candor leads to dysfunctional environment, he told me. This belief has been at the core of Pixar's culture since the company was founded. At its inception, Pixar formed a group called the Brain Trust. That is where I'm going. Which consisted of 4 or 5 Pixar creative leaders who oversee development on all movies, meeting every month to assess progress and challenges. Catmull described the Brain Trust in simple terms, and I quote, put smart, passionate people in a room together, charge them with identifying and solving problems, and encourage them to be candid. The whole idea, and unquote, the whole idea behind the Brain Trust is that members should speak freely, arguing without fear of conflict, with the interest of the company in mind. The group has no authority, so when members evaluate a movie in production, the director can decide whether or not to follow any of their specific suggestions. In the 2010s, Pixar was expanding and growing, so it hired more and more people. The new recruits were excited, sure, but the talent in the room was usually pretty intimidating and left the nervous about sharing their own ideas. Executives decided to try something bold to improve the situation. In 2013, Catmull and a few other managers began planning a special day, Note Day, during which Pixar would sit down to elicit honest feedback from its employees. Note Day was an expansion of the spirit of the Brain Trust. Let me pause there. So I am saying all this to buttress the point that this is the Brain Trust for the state, with what you are doing and others who are gathering to discuss the way forward for the state. And so, gentlemen, we are going to be faced with critical challenges as we go forward in 2022. I love The Economist, and I love buying the first edition of every year. And so this year's first edition has truly said the world ahead in 2022. And one of the things that we are going to be faced with is that The things we used to enjoy before is not going to be available any longer. The aids from Western world is not going to be available as it used to because they are faced and grappling with their own challenges locally. And so their funding is going to be left within them. And they are going to have energy challenges. And so you have to brace up for critical thinking for us to be able to see how we are going to overcome those energy challenges. Again, I read one of the contributors to that article. And so that when you hear that the federal government wants to remove subsidy or they are trying to increase tariff in electricity, know that it gets where it's coming from. It's going to be a global challenge. Now, this is an article, reality check. It says shortages and greenflation will end the age of idealism on energy policy, predict Patrick Fullis. That is the contributor to this article. He said it's not easy being green. We have touted renewable energy, but this is what he has to say. The hardest part of the coming year, that is 2022, the coming year of realism will involve being honest with the public because energy investment needs to increase from 2% of world GDP to 5%. Bills and taxes must rise. Politicians can try to preempt the inevitable backlash by using the proceeds of carbon taxes to help the poor. If energy prices continue to soar in 2022, there will be protests both on the street and at the ballot box. But if the squeeze eases, then the year could end with energy policy on a more solid foundation. The chances of the world hitting its net zero target will still be remote, but grid designs, investment, incentives, and fiscal plans may be in a better shape. I'm saying all this to say that for us to come out of these challenges that we find ourselves and will continue to find, we need critical thinkers. And what we are doing today, don't consider it a waste. And go and read and do more research, and so that when we gather here next year, or even before next year, we might have been able to come up with some ideas, some creative ideas, or suggestions that would help either solve social problems, environmental problems, or economic problems that we are faced with. Now, in conclusion, we are asked to speak on restoring citizens' courage in a democracy. And the things I wrote down are the things you normally heard me say. And so I will send this paper to the organizers, and I believe that they are going to share the papers to the people that are here. But just a few lines, and then I yield the microphone. The task of the restoration of the citizens' courage is for all of us, and we must understand that it will be impossible to deepen democracy or expect good governance if we give up on the important task of subjecting power wielders to scrutiny. For those who expect to reap the blessings of the harvest must undergo the fatigues of planting and weeding. Now, I go ahead to say this, and I want this to stick with you. And that for you to exercise our power as a people, the foremost strategy is to understand the workings of the political system and how government works at all levels of governance. This will enable you to gauge your expectations on each role an individual plays and the boundaries of his or her performance depending on the level of representation and arm of government. Why am I saying so? I hear some people, I hear some people ask me on so and so, what did you do? Okay, I've heard some people challenge me, local government autonomy, you were the Speaker of the House of Assembly, what did you do? Legislative autonomy, you were the Speaker of the House of Assembly, what did you do? If you don't understand the working of the House, that it is a gathering of equals, and so the highest thing you can do is to stand up and make your position known, and canvass their views, and get others to see why they should toe your line. There is hardly nothing you can do. When the House votes on a position, it is a House position. As a Speaker of the House of Assembly, you are only a face amongst equals. Starting with the responsibility of coordinating the views. You cannot force other people to take the position that you have taken. And then for those who came to listen, and the records of the House of Assembly are there, I took the position I had to take as the Speaker of the House of Assembly as an individual, and where I stood on those issues. And the other one is, if you don't know the responsibility of the House, you will not know how to call them to account. There is one provision in the Constitution, there's only one committee that has its mention in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that's the Public Account Committee. Anytime you hear that the Public Account Committee is meeting, or anytime you hear that there is public hearing of the House, your power can only be exercised if you are well equipped. Go and ask questions, go and follow up with what they are doing, so that you will not take what you should expect from the executive and begin to ask the legislature to give you that you want to expect from the executive. And so, as stated here, the role of the executive. And so, if we must get power, rebuilding trust begins with lending a willing hand to a project that is given from a passionate heart to bring a leadership with a strong bond with the government and the populace, for one who seeks to lead people and cannot relate with their yearnings is like an island without its hinterland, or a body without a heart. We cannot forget that public order, personal security, economy, and social progress are not the natural order of things. They depend on the ceaseless effort and attention from an honest and effective government elected by the people. And so, as part of our cherished goals for the future, we want to give back power to the local communities. We will rely on village development associations for effective need assessment to have a true picture of what communities need and not necessarily what the government feels is best for them. With this, government programs and policies will be developed directly in accordance with their needs. Justice Ukana challenged me to something, and I still have it here reflected here, and I want to say it again. A government that can be trusted is one that is always on ground, dwelling with the dwellers of our fishing settlement. I don't know how many of us have visited Idapushe before, or visited the fishing settlement in Itu, to see na ibana they say Tiamfi, or ina Mko, or Abu. I don't know how many of us in leadership have gone there before. You cannot seek to solve a people's problem if you don't know that problem, and you cannot know a people's problem if you do not live with them. Otherwise, you are going to be relying on what is written for you, and sometimes most of those things written might be laced with either personal interest or maybe lack of adequate knowledge in that particular area. And so, farming, I'm talking about the dwellers of our fishing settlement, farming with our farmers who ensure we have enough food, and riding with our transporters, as everyone is an important piece in the puzzle for our growth as a people. It is a government that is constantly engaging with elected representatives at all levels, and also having visits to local communities on scheduled weekends to ensure the people in those communities are heard, as well as giving them direct access to government. And it's a government that the executive, one day, I don't know, when we speak about the things to be done, it is not to the extent that the past and the present have not done it. Then we are speaking in the sense that no leader has been able to build any sustainable society alone in one administration. If it is so, as established as American democracy is, America will not be grappling with almost about 3-point-something trillion infrastructure bill. They would have said, oh, America has already been developed. So when we speak about the things that needs to be done, it is not an indictment on those who have had the opportunity. And so going forward, it's a government that if we must give power back to the people, it's a government where the governor, the members of the House of Assembly, the members of the National Assembly, the councillors, the chairman, and all the people would gather in one place, and everybody would owe responsibility. Everybody will know that when government succeeds, it is all of us, from the governor to the councillor, back at the local community, that is responsible. If it fails, God forbid, that it is all these people that are responsible, then we would have reduced the attack on the chief executive officer of the state. We would have now begun to channel our attacks to either the chairman who has failed to perform his responsibility. But when we begin to arrogate powers only to ourselves, that is how the same way that criticism and attacks on the media would be centered on one individual. And so, in conclusion, I reiterate my opinion that the public is entitled to expect from its servant a set of standards far above the morals of the marketplace. As those who exercise public and political power are trustees of the hopes and aspirations of the citizen. But while we acknowledge the difficulty in trusting the process, it would be morally unacceptable, however, to give up on the project of restoring trust on the grounds that it's too hard for the difficult task of restoring political trust inextricably entwined with the task of critically reflecting on our own behavior as leaders in our communities. Choosing the best of us to lead us and offering our support as community stakeholders towards significant reforms to our social and economic policies as well as electoral system. And we want to appreciate those who have used their platforms like Tracker Nigeria, like Budget, like Policy Alert to inform the citizens of their rights and inform the citizens of the working of government. So it is on this note that I thank you for the invitation. I flew in for this invitation. I came in by 9:40 flight. I would have been here this morning. Then I said I might not be able to meet it. I flew in by 9:40 flight and we landed there about 10:40 yesterday night because I had to honor the invitation of this group, because this is my endorsement and my support, my little way of supporting what you are doing to contribute to a better society. Not because I'm a leader today. I want us to create an environment where when I'm no more a leader, I can walk the street freely. I know that security has been provided. Where I'm no more a leader, I can go to a primary health center in Ikorodu where I come from, and I get the benefit of the healthcare delivery there, and then get the benefit of even health insurance scheme when I probably don't have the finances or the privileges that the office gives me today. And so on this note, my name is Onofiok, and I'm asking you to come with me. Let's build and grow together. God bless Akwa, and God bless Akwa.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Right Onofiok. So please allow me to please wait a bit while we call out some other dignitaries and guests who are here present to come up and just come up to the center and take a group picture. So please can we have Barrister Morgan and please put your hands